3 months before the wedding, to save up for a more expensive jewelry set for my fiancée, I was pulling all-nighters, working part-time gigs, even taking on delivery jobs. Today, I fought tooth and nail to snag a high-tip order, an express delivery of a proposal bouquet. The address was the new condo I had bought for my fiancée. When I rushed over, I found her and her childhood acquaintance locked in a passionate kiss. Someone laughed and asked, "Aren't you afraid your lapdog boyfriend will get mad?" My fiancé frowned. "He already has the rest of my life. For these last 3 months, I need to fulfill my own regrets." I smiled, personally handing her the flowers and offering my blessing. "In that case, don't leave any regrets. I wish you a long and happy life together." Chapter 1. Sincere Miller, is that you? Why are you working as a courier? Wait, are you following me? A flash of panic crossed Victoria Vaughn's eyes as she fired off questions, but her hand remained tightly intertwined with Ethan Shaw's. I didn't hear a single word she said. My head was buzzing and my chest felt so tight I could barely breathe. The bouquet was getting crushed in my grip. I fought to control my emotions and looked at Victoria, hoping she would give me an explanation. Why was the woman I had loved for 8 years proposing to another man behind my back? And that man was Ethan, someone she had always insisted she saw as a little brother. And what was this regret she was talking about? The once lively atmosphere fell silent. Under everyone's stares, Victoria looked uncomfortable. She snatched the bouquet from my hand, her voice laced with anger. "We were just acting for a video. What's with the sarcastic attitude? You've ruined the whole mood. Now we have to shoot that scene all over again." My face darkened, and I asked through gritted teeth, "What kind of proposal scene requires you to star in it personally, and to film it here? This is our new home, not yours and his. What's yours? Mine or his? Ethan is my brother, and you're his brother-in-law. What's the big deal if we use it for a bit? Why are you being so petty all of a sudden? If you can't stand it, then leave. I specifically chose today because I knew you'd be working overtime. Who knew you'd suddenly show up?" My mouth opened, but no words came out. I had worked up a sweat rushing over, but now an icy chill washed over me. My fists clenched. I turned my head and my eyes were drawn to a pile of colorful shards on the floor. Realizing what it was, I hurried over and pushed aside the confetti from the party poppers, revealing a shattered vase. It was the souvenir vase we had made together on our first anniversary, with our names and the date engraved on it. When we were decorating the new place, I had put it in the most prominent spot. Because it was our first time trying pottery, the vase was far from perfect, but it marked the beginning of our love. Now the scattered pieces on the floor were a stark reminder that our long journey together was ending in failure. Seeing this, Victoria pursed her lips and softened her tone slightly. "Okay, I'm sorry. I was just on edge and took it out on you. The vase, we got too into the scene, and Ethan accidentally knocked it over. You can just buy a new one later." Ethan, standing behind her, stepped forward, subtly positioning himself in front of Victoria, a triumphant look he couldn't hide in his eyes. "Sincere, don't blame Sis V. She was just trying to help me out. Don't worry, I'll clean everything up before I leave." I let out a bitter laugh and asked in a low, unwilling voice, "Don't you remember what this was?" Victoria, however, was just toying with her hair and said casually, "It was just an ugly vase. I've been meaning to ask why you hadn't thrown it out yet. It's better that it's broken." It felt like a giant hole had been stabbed through my heart, a numbing pain spreading through me. A single tear fell onto a porcelain shard. She had forgotten long ago. I was the only one cherishing that memory. Victoria was my first love, a woman I had pursued for 5 years. She told me she felt insecure about love. So I scrimped and saved, and at the beginning of the year I finally bought a small condo, paid in full, under her name. She then accepted my proposal. I was ecstatic for a long time. I visited numerous jewelry stores and picked out a pricey gold set, planning to surprise her with it on our wedding day. I never thought she'd be the one to surprise me first. They started their so-called proposal scene again. Watching her hold the flowers with a shy expression, professing her love for Ethan, I felt like the clown in this farce. Noticing my gaze, Ethan shot me a provocative glance, then swept Victoria into his arms, spun her around a few times, and kissed her again. 8 years of love, so much effort, all for this. Suppressing my emotions, I quietly turned and walked away. If they want to get married, let them. I don't want this fiancé anymore. Chapter 2. I returned to my apartment alone when my best friend Gavin Price called. "Congrats, bro, you finally made it." My throat was dry. I thought he'd heard about my engagement from someone and was calling to congratulate me. Just as I was about to say something, he continued, "How come only your girlfriend posted on Instagram? I don't see anything from you. And she didn't even show your faces. If I hadn't recognized the rings you asked me about, I wouldn't have known it was you. Have you been short on cash lately because you're getting ready for the wedding? I've got a project I can outsource to you. You keep the profits. Think of it as a wedding gift from me." Confused, I cut him off. I quickly opened Instagram and saw a new post from Victoria. There were no faces, just the shadows of two people embracing sweetly on the wall. The caption read, "Love is worth capturing." I stared at my phone, at the matching rings I had so carefully chosen now on another man's hand. My chest heaved. Nothing hurts more than being betrayed by the one you love most. In that moment, I truly felt like my 8 years of devotion had been thrown to the dogs. Victoria never liked me posting anything about her on social media. Since we started dating, we had never taken a single photo together. On the day I proposed, I begged her to post just once for me, but she told me, "Couples who show off break up fast. It's better if we just live our lives quietly." She even took my ring, saying, "This is too expensive to get scratched up. Let me keep it safe and I'll bring it out on our wedding day." At the time, I thought she was just trying to protect our relationship, unwilling to share it with others. How ridiculous that seems now. Perhaps it was just because, in her eyes, I wasn't someone worth capturing. I took a deep breath and quickly explained the situation to Gavin, who listened while cursing her out and trying to comfort me. "That startup idea you mentioned before, is it too late for me to join, to build a stable home with Victoria?" I had turned down my friend's business proposals multiple times, content to stay in the city where she worked. Now, there was no reason to stay. Of course not out of our whole dorm. You had the best tech skills. If it wasn't for Victoria, never mind. We're heading to Crestwood next week to scout a new office location. You should come along and get familiar with things. If we decide on it, that's where we'll be focusing our business. After finalizing the details with my friend, my phone buzzed with a notification that my delivery order was complete. Victoria had tipped me $20 along with a message. "Don't be mad. Go buy yourself something nice to eat. I'll make it up to you tomorrow." I didn't cash it out, I just uninstalled the app. I didn't want this kind of charity. Chapter 3. A second later, I received a Venmo transfer from Victoria, and a message from her. "Sincere Miller, why didn't you wait for me? Why did you leave on your own? Anyway, use this money to buy yourself some late-night snacks. I'll explain everything that happened tonight tomorrow." But what was there to explain? The events of the evening were seared into my mind. I moved my finger over the block button, hesitated for a few seconds, then returned to the chat window. I typed and deleted "let's break up" over and over. Finally, frustrated, I tossed my phone aside and lay on the sofa in a daze, looking around the room. My tiny 200-square-foot rental was filled with her photos. An 8-year relationship isn't something you can just sever in an instant. Before breaking up, there were things I had to understand. If I was going to lose, I needed to lose with my eyes open. I ended up falling asleep on the sofa like that. Early the next morning, there was a loud banging on the door. "Sincere Miller, open up." Why is the door locked? Rubbing my aching forehead, I squinted at my phone. It wasn't even 6 a.m. I sighed and opened the door for Victoria, only to find Ethan Shaw there too. He was pressed up close behind Victoria, looking fragile and innocent. "Sincere Miller, what's wrong with you? Didn't you know I was coming back? You don't answer your phone, and you lock the door." I've practically shouted my throat raw. Victoria complained non-stop. At the same time, she led Ethan by the hand into my living room, had him sit down and started getting him tea and water, just like I used to do for her. Noticing my silence, Victoria's hand paused as she poured the water, and she explained, "Our wedding is just for show. Ethan's mother has terminal liver cancer, and her last wish is to see him settled down." Then she glanced at Ethan, put a hand on my arm, and lowered her voice. "Besides, Ethan was recently diagnosed with stage 2 stomach cancer. If he can't fulfill his mother's wish, I'm worried it will affect his mood for the treatment ahead." I frowned slightly and pulled my arm away. I looked at the rosy-cheeked Ethan and smirked. If I hadn't seen the table full of red wine, sashimi, and barbecue last night, I might have actually believed her. Once, I developed stomach problems from working overtime and pulling all-nighters. I was in so much pain that I fell down the stairs, hitting my head and bleeding. I called her, only to get a cold reply. "It's just a little bump, you'll be fine. I'm in the middle of something important, don't bother me." In the end, it was a neighbor who found me lying on the floor and called an ambulance for me. Afterward, she never once asked about my condition. Instead, she was angry at me for a long time because I couldn't pick her up from work. Later, I saw from Ethan's social media what that important thing was. She had gone to a basketball game with him. It turns out, you can see the difference between love and non-love in the small details of life. I was just blinded by love back then. Ethan suddenly started coughing violently, his face flushing red, though he couldn't suppress the smirk on his lips. "Sincere, don't worry. We're just getting fake married. Sis V is still yours." I ignored him. My gut told me this wasn't the answer I was looking for. The real answer was in her regret. "Victoria, you're still not telling the truth. Tell me about that regret. Maybe then I can understand." Chapter 4. Victoria froze, her face a mask of conflict as if she were fighting a final internal battle. After a long moment, she finally spoke. "Because the person I wanted to marry most when I was little was Ethan's older brother, Elias Shaw. My family was very traditional and favored boys. I was often hungry and had to do a lot of chores, but his brother would secretly give me food and help me with my work. He was such a kind boy, but he didn't live past the age of 10. Looking at Ethan's calm expression, it was clear he knew all of this. I gave a bitter laugh and asked her, "So I was his replacement? Have you felt nothing for me at all these past 8 years? Victoria frowned. "Don't be so dramatic. His brother was only 10 when he died. How could I treat you as his stand-in? You've been very good to me too. I've never had to do any housework, you're willing to give me money, and you put the condo in my name. I was perfectly willing to marry you. Don't worry, the person I love now is you. Once Ethan gets better, I'll settle down and live a good life with you." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. So Victoria knew I was good to her. For 8 years I took care of everything, big and small, at home. I did my best to meet all her demands. The reason she could so casually downplay her cheating now was that she was taking my kindness for granted, because in her eyes it was all to be expected. She said she loved me, but it was more accurate to say she just enjoyed what I did for her. I brought all of this on myself with the question in my heart answered. I suddenly felt a sense of release about this relationship. Seeing that I wasn't arguing, Victoria relaxed and continued, "Sincere Miller, Elias is gone. I can't just watch his younger brother die so young too. When you proposed to me, you said you would listen to me from now on. Since you know everything now, it's not too much to ask for you, as his brother-in-law, to look after him, right? Ethan will be living with us for a while. If you mind him staying at the new place, then you can pack your things and give him your room here." Then she picked up a food container from the side. "Oh, right. You didn't wait for us last night, so Ethan urged me to come back and check on you this morning. Your stomach is weak, so I went out of my way to buy you some fish chowder from the corner diner before coming over. It's still hot. We're going to pick out a wedding dress later. You should come with us." I quickly waved my hands. "No need. Your wedding has nothing to do with me. Victoria, let's break up." Chapter 5. Victoria's smile vanished. Her brow furrowed in annoyance. "Sincere Miller, didn't I just explain everything clearly? And you still want to break up with me?" Ethan, who had been sitting on the side, suddenly stood up and knelt before me, grabbing my pant leg. Disgusted, the moment he touched me, my anger flared and I kicked him away forcefully. He fell to the ground dramatically, then started beating his chest, not forgetting to sneak a glance at Victoria's expression before he did. "Sincere, hit me if it makes you feel better, just don't break up with Sis V. This is all my fault. It's all because I'm a loser who can't find a wife. I might as well just go die with my mom." The next second, something hit my back hard. The scalding hot chowder soaked through my clothes, and my skin quickly turned red. Victoria rushed over to stop Ethan, her voice filled with concern as she roared at me. "Enough. Sincere Miller. Have you made enough of a scene? He's a patient. If anything happens to him, I'll hold you responsible with the two of them putting on this act." I was the one who looked like the bad guy. I couldn't help but sneer. I wanted a family, that much was true, but I had no interest in being a total sucker. Taking a deep breath, I looked coldly at the two of them on the floor. "Victoria, let me make this clear today. We're breaking up. The money I gave you in the past, I don't want it back. But the condo was for our wedding. Since we're not getting married, you need to find a time to transfer the title back to me." The The mention of the condo seemed to hit a nerve. Victoria shrieked, "Sincere Miller, do you have any conscience? I gave you 8 years of my youth, and now you're using the condo to threaten me. No wonder you were responsible for your parents' death. You've been selfish since you were a child. The reason you have nightmares every night is because of your guilty conscience." My breath caught in my throat. My hands clenched into fists as I glared at her, the disappointment in my eyes deepening. My parents' death was a lifelong wound. As a child, I had been throwing a tantrum, demanding a toy. To get it before the store closed, my parents rushed out on a rainy night and got into a car accident. I was the only survivor. Whenever it stormed, I would remember the image of my parents dying horribly in front of me. Because I cared about Victoria, I had shared my pain with her without reservation. Now she was using it as a weapon to defend Ethan and stab me in the heart. Suppressing my rage, I yelled, "Shut up and get out of my house right now," startled. Victoria froze for a moment, then stared at me with red-rimmed, resentful eyes. "Sincere Miller, even if we break up, you can forget about getting the condo back, or I'll fight you to the death. And you'd better not regret this. We'll see how you come crawling back to me, Ethan. Let's go." Leaning on Victoria, Ethan slowly got to his feet, a glint in his eyes. After they left, I went to my room to treat the burn on my back with some ointment. When I came out, I noticed Victoria had left her purse behind. So I packed up everything of hers in the apartment into trash bags and took them downstairs, along with her purse. I found the two of them still standing at the bottom of the building. Their faces were flushed and they were breathing heavily. Clearly, something had just happened. Ethan had his arm around Victoria's waist and asked tentatively, "Sis 5, Sincere actually wants the condo back? Doesn't that mean you wasted all these years on him?" Victoria pouted and said defiantly, "Don't worry. It's not the first time we've fought. He's just angry. In a few days I'll give him an easy way out, and he'll come crawling back like he always does." As she finished, she looked up and saw me standing in the stairwell. She guiltily pushed Ethan away. Seeing the bags in my hand, her expression shifted to one of "I knew it," and she turned her head away haughtily. I let out a derisive laugh. Right in front of them, I threw the trash bags, purse and all, into the dumpster. Victoria's face went from white to green, and she started screaming curses, but I just walked away without a backward glance. Garbage belongs in the trash can. That goes for food, and for love, too. Chapter 6. Because of all this mess, I contacted Gavin Price and moved up our business trip. Over the next few days, my phone was flooded with angry messages from Victoria's friends, all scolding me, saying a grown man shouldn't doubt Victoria's love for me, especially after she'd been with me for 8 years. They kept trying to vouch for her, insisting that she and Ethan were completely innocent, a bunch of blatant liars. They were the ones who had been cheering the loudest that night. I blocked them all. At the same time, I messaged my lawyer, telling him to speed up the lawsuit to get the property title back. That day from my apartment, I had overheard Ethan repeatedly asking Victoria about the condo. The way he looked at her wasn't the look of someone in love. It was hard not to suspect that he was after the condo. After sending the message, I opened an online forum to see if anyone had responded to my private message asking for leads on Ethan back in his hometown. If Ethan was really after the condo, he would definitely try to trick Victoria into legally marrying him. Even though I paid for the condo in full, once it became their joint marital property, a lawsuit would get very complicated. The city was too far from his hometown. Hiring a private investigator now would take time. Posting a paid request for information in their local community was a long shot, but I had to try my luck. Work went smoother than expected. Afterward, Gavin booked a private room, and a few of the partners sat around chatting. A toast, everyone welcomed Sincere to the team, and here's to the successful launch of our business here in Crestwood. May our game be a massive hit when it goes live. The steam from the hot pot rose around us, and after a glass of red wine and the sound of my friend's hearty laughter, much of my recent gloom began to lift. Suddenly, I got a call from an unknown number. I glanced at it, assumed it was a spam call, and ignored it, continuing to chat with my friends. A moment later, my phone buzzed with a picture and a text message from the same number. It was a photo of Ethan and the others holding a marriage certificate in the wedding home I had personally decorated. My pupils contracted. The one thing I didn't want to happen had happened. The picture came with a message: "If you want the rest of the info, call this number." I made an excuse to Gavin and the others, returned to the hotel early, and dialed the number. A young voice came through the line. "You'll pay $500 for a lead on Ethan Shaw, Chapter 7. I asked calmly, "Yes, but how can I be sure what you're saying is true?" And what if you take the money and don't give me the information? Why don't you start by telling me where you got that picture? On my way back to the hotel, I had unblocked Victoria and Ethan on social media, but neither of them had posted that photo. I still didn't know who this person was or how they got the picture. On my end, I quietly connected my phone to my computer. I had studied programming. Tracing an IP address from a phone wasn't difficult for me. Sure enough, the person on the other end spoke with the swagger of a small-time hoodlum. None of your business how I got it. I not only have what you want, but I also know you're the ex of his new wife if you transfer the money quickly, and I'm in a good mood. I might tell you a little something about him. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind having a little business chat with him instead. But I'd advise you not to be penny-wise and pound-foolish, buddy. I raised an eyebrow but didn't indulge him. Using the address, I hacked into a nearby security camera and said calmly, "Fine. I already know who you are anyway. You're at an internet cafe on a certain street in a certain city right now. Let's see. Are you the one wearing the black hat and red flip-flops?" I moved the mouse across the screen, watching as the person shot up from their chair and looked around frantically. I could hear his muttered curses over the phone. Intimidation was the best way to deal with punks like him. I softened my tone and said, "Let's do this honestly. As long as you give me what I need, I'll pay you. But if you try to pull a fast one, you can't blame me for what happens next." After a moment, he sent over the rest of the pictures one by one. I learned from the hoodlum that Ethan had racked up high-interest gambling debts back home. He had secretly sold his family's ancestral home behind his parents' back. But it wasn't enough to cover the hole. By the time his parents found out, he had already taken his ID and skipped town. With no source of income, he used his good looks to make a living by scamming women. He would post pictures on a separate private account, which attracted a lot of followers. If someone was willing to pay, he would even sell the women's personal information. Some victims had reported him to the police, but he was always quick to disappear and was never caught. I clicked through the pictures, looking at photo after photo of them together. Each one was dated by Victoria, with a note about her mood that day. The timeline stretched back 5 years. Every pair of sneakers Ethan wore was expensive. I even recognized one pair that I had seen in Victoria's online shopping cart. It was close to my birthday at the time, and I thought it was a surprise she was preparing for me. I was secretly excited for weeks, but on my birthday after midnight, all I received was a measly $5 Venmo transfer. She said she had invested in a new financial product to save for our future kids. She said a simple birthday was fine. Only now did I understand. She wasn't planning for our future at all. She was just spending all my money to keep her dear little brother happy. But seeing all this now didn't stir any emotion in me. After getting what I wanted, I promptly transferred the money to the guy and added, "Let's work together again. You keep an eye on his recent activities. Once I report him and he's arrested, I'll send you another $200. But if he gets tipped off and runs, I'll report you as his accomplice." The hoodlum laughed awkwardly and finally promised me he would monitor Ethan closely. After forwarding the evidence to my lawyer, I called Victoria. She answered instantly, her voice slurring with drunkenness. "Sincere Miller, you finally decided to call me? I've missed you so much these past few days, I realized I can't live without you. Can we not break up, please? When you get back, Ethan and I will apologize to you. Just forgive me this one time. The other day, Mindy was showing off her new designer bag right in front of me, and I was so mad. Can you send me some money? I know you love me the most." My mouth twitched. Victoria was still living in a fantasy world. Fighting back my disgust, I told her when I would be back. After all, the couple was newly married. It would be rude not to prepare a big gift. Chapter 8. When the day came, I arrived on time. The one who opened the door was Ethan. With his hands in his pockets, he leaned lazily against the doorframe, looking every bit the man of the house, and said with a malicious grin, "Smelled trouble and came running, huh? You really are a lapdog. Are you that interested in becoming the third person in our family? I have to say, that bed you picked out, it's incredibly comfortable." I raised an eyebrow and said coolly, "You don't actually think having a marriage certificate gives you a claim to this condo, do you?" At my words, Ethan immediately stood up straight, his eyes darting around nervously. "Sincere, you're back, come on in." Victoria came out of the kitchen wearing an apron. The dining table was covered with food. She lowered her head shyly. "It's my first time cooking all this. I'm not sure if you'll like it." I glanced at the table but didn't expose the fact that the food was clearly takeout. I got straight to the point. "You said you wanted to apologize to me. Let's hear it." Victoria stood frozen, forcing an awkward smile as she fidgeted. What happened before was my fault. I didn't discuss it with you beforehand, and I was wrong. I apologize, but I only see Ethan as a little brother. Please believe me, you're the one I love. We've been together for 8 years. I can't live without you. Hearing this, I couldn't help but scoff. You love me, so you want me to be the other man? If you still intend to marry me, don't you know that's bigamy? Victoria's eyes widened and her face flushed red. How did you know about the marriage certificate? Wait, no, believe me, I'll divorce him as soon as his mother passes away. I didn't reply, simply shifting my gaze to Ethan. The next second, Victoria stepped in front of him. This has nothing to do with him. I was just trying to help him. Victoria's mouth said she loved me, but her body's actions were far more honest. Just then, the doorbell rang, followed by a series of frantic knocks. I smiled. Go on, open it. I had some gifts delivered. Hearing this, Victoria's spirits instantly lifted. She thought the designer bag I bought for her had arrived and eagerly ran to the door. Auntie, what are you doing here? Aren't you in the hospital for a serious illness? Chapter 9. Beside me, Ethan's face paled and he started to panic. A figure shoved Victoria aside and stormed in. A disheveled-looking woman lunged at Ethan, screaming curses as she clawed at him. You little bastard, I should never have given birth to you, just go die. Red scratches appeared on Ethan's face. He glared at me fiercely, then, as if realizing something, he shoved his mother away. Let go of me. If you two weren't so useless, would I have had to resort to gambling? With that, he made a frantic dash for the door. But several plainclothes police officers appeared, and 2 of them quickly tackled him to the ground. You heartless, prodigal son. You drove your father to his death, do you even know that? Ethan's mother tried to lunge at him again, but was held back by another officer. It all happened so fast that it took Victoria a moment to process everything. Mrs. Shaw, Ethan is still sick. Why are you hitting him, and weren't you too sick to even get out of bed? What's this about Mr. Shaw being driven to his death? Ethan's mother looked up numbly and stared at Victoria, asking uncertainly, Are you Mr. Lynn's girl, Victoria Vaughn? The next second her expression turned vicious, and she grabbed Victoria by the hair. You tramp. It's all because of you that worthless boy said he did it all for you. That's why he started gambling and got into so much debt. Why should our house be mortgaged to loan sharks while you get to live comfortably in a nice condo? Give me back my money. Even a fool would have realized something was wrong. Victoria broke free from Martha Shaw's grip and asked Ethan in disbelief, Your mom is lying, right? You don't have any gambling debts. You just went to start a business, didn't you? Pinned to the floor, Ethan guiltily lowered his head and said nothing. Ethan Shaw, where did my money go? Tell me. Victoria lunged at Ethan in a frenzy, while his mother refused to let her go. The 3 of them started brawling again, and the scene descended back into chaos. I picked up some peanuts from the table and stepped aside to watch the show. Such a brilliant spectacle was truly satisfying to watch. In the end, the police had to forcibly take everyone down to the station. Chapter 10. I was also taken to the police station to give a statement. From the other room I could hear the distinct shouts of Victoria and the others. Ethan Shaw, you bastard, how dare you lie to me, tramp. Give me back my family's money, or I won't let you go after understanding the whole situation. The officer patted me on the shoulder and filled me in on more details. To fund his gambling addiction, Ethan had been playing both sides. He lied to Victoria about having a terminal illness and lied to his parents, saying he needed a $50,000 bride price to marry Victoria. All the money he got his hands on, he lost at the tables. I was the most innocent person in this whole mess. Now, Ethan's mother was convinced that Victoria had taken the money, while Victoria insisted that Ethan had scammed her out of everything and refused to admit anything. She had truly dug her own grave. But this was all her own doing. When I left the station, Victoria's clothes were torn and she looked utterly defeated. When she saw me, she started crying, saying she had been deceived. But I cut her off. Victoria, I've already broken up with you. I don't want to get involved in your affairs. The money I gave you before, I don't want it back. But I've already filed a lawsuit with my lawyer for the condo. If you have any decency left, you'll transfer the title back to me as soon as possible. Otherwise, we'll see each other in court. With red-rimmed eyes, Victoria screamed, Impossible, the condo is in my name, it's mine, what right do you have to take it back? Then, as if a thought struck her, she sniffled, and her tone softened again. She tugged at my sleeve. Sincere, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Let's forget all the unpleasantness and start over. We're supposed to get married in 3 months, aren't we? We haven't even taken our wedding photos yet. I see it clearly now. You're the only one who's truly good to me. I have nothing left now. I can't lose you too. Watching her self-pitying repentance, I laid the truth bare. I know you regret it. But I also know you're just afraid of losing a personal ATM who does whatever you want, and afraid of losing your life as a princess who never has to do chores. There's no point in talking anymore. If you refuse to cooperate, then wait for the court summons. The lease on my rental had expired before I returned. Since I was planning to move to Crestwood, I hadn't renewed it. I hailed a nearby taxi and went to the nearest hotel. But that night, Victoria called me again. Her voice was terrifyingly low. Why did you give up the apartment? And your company said you've taken a 2-week leave. Where did you go on your business trip? I just replied calmly, I'm planning to start a business in another city, but that has nothing to do with you anymore. But Victoria just laughed. Start a business, or you found a new, younger girlfriend? So that's why you wanted to break up with me and take back the condo. I see you're just a fickle cheater, Sincere Miller, let me tell you. If you think you can get rid of me that easily. You're dreaming for 8 years. I ate with you, drank with you, slept with you. That condo is my compensation. If you want to break up with me, you have 3 days to give me another $50,000, otherwise I'll die for you to see. My face darkened. Victoria. But she had already hung up. I rubbed my temples and called my lawyer. Victoria had lost her mind. I was afraid something unexpected might happen. I needed to be prepared. Sure enough, 3 days later, I was trending online. Because Victoria had jumped off a bridge. Chapter 11. Gavin Price told me about it while I was finalizing my resignation. The video had already gone viral. I opened my phone and saw Victoria sitting on the edge of a bridge, with passers-by constantly trying to talk her down. She was wearing a red wedding dress, caressing the wedding ring on her finger, and crying to the camera of a bystander. Sincere Miller, you chose a better career and future for yourself, and I don't blame you. But I've always said I only wanted to marry you in this life. I'll go on ahead and wait for you. With that, she jumped. With that one simple sentence, she had nailed me to the pillar of shame. Some netizens mentioned, with varying degrees of accuracy, that I had bought a property for her before the wedding. Then, after a business trip, just 3 months before the wedding, I had called it off and demanded the property back. A mix of true and false information was swirled together, and netizens who didn't know the truth had already concocted hundreds of stories, but in every single one, I was the villain. My face was ashen. I never thought Victoria could be so vicious. She wanted to completely destroy my reputation. My former colleagues were giving me looks of contempt. I typed out a message instructing the marketing accounts I had already contacted to post everything about Victoria and Ethan online. I even spent a large sum on promotion. I wanted everyone to see it. Since she started it, she couldn't blame me for finishing it. The pictures and evidence quickly turned public opinion around, completely overwhelming Victoria's narrative. She tried to go live to play the victim, but the comments were filled with insults, and she was quickly forced to end the stream. In the end, she was detained for 15 days for defamation. My lawyer seized the opportunity to pressure her into signing over the property title. Once everything was settled, I paid no more attention to Victoria. I hired a property manager and moved away from the city. Chapter 8. 5 years later, our game was finally developed, and its sales far exceeded our expectations. The money we each made was enough to buy several houses. On a business trip, I returned to the city to sign the contract for selling the condo. I had put the condo on the market a year ago, but the price wasn't ideal. Recently, the market had picked up, so I quickly sold it. After signing the contract, I hired a cleaner to come and dust the old place. A thin woman wearing a mask arrived shortly after. I was looking down, dealing with some urgent messages, and said, "Hello, please clean the dust off all this furniture. If you want any of these decorations on the wall, you can take them. If not, just throw them out. It might take a few days to clean, so if you need the key, just get it from the property manager." But then I heard an unexpected voice. "Sincere Miller, you're finally back. I saw this condo listed on the platform looking for a cleaner, and I just knew you were back. I had to fight really hard to get this job." I froze for a second. I didn't recognize Victoria at first. I never thought I would see her again like this. I thought we would never cross paths again in this lifetime. The person who used to hate doing chores the most was now working as a cleaner. She looked much more worn out. Her once fair hands were now covered in wrinkles from years of cleaning, and her eyes looked exhausted. Time can wash away anything. Seeing Victoria now, all I felt was a sense of melancholy. She stood across from me, looking at me with a wronged expression, telling me how difficult her life had been these past few years. Because of the defamation incident, Victoria lost her original job. Without the condo, she had to use her savings to rent a small apartment. Later, after Ethan got out of jail after a few months, he and his mother latched onto her completely, since they were legally married. He dropped all pretenses, forcing Victoria to work during the day and come home at night to do their laundry and cook for them. I never realized how hard it is to work and take care of a household at the same time. I haven't been able to save any money all these years, and I haven't bought clothes over $100 or a bag over $1,000 in so long. Of course, when we were together, her salary was only a few thousand, just enough for her own living expenses. All her luxury purchases were funded by my money. To give her a life of comfort, I had pulled countless all-nighters and taken on so many freelance projects, but in the end, none of it could compare to the sweet words of her dear little brother. I nodded occasionally, my mind elsewhere, busy replying to messages from my wife and child. Chapter 9. Victoria unwillingly fidgeted with the hem of her clothes. Sincere, are you still single? Is there still a chance for us? I've learned how to do housework now. The fact that you didn't sell the condo for so many years must mean you still have feelings for me, right? My face turned cold, and I cut her off. I'm married. I have an adorable daughter, and I love them very much. As for the condo, that was just because the housing market had crashed. It's only now that prices have recovered that I could sell it. Don't overthink things. As for you, I hope we never see each other again for the rest of our lives. With that, I turned and left without looking back. The past was in the past. Now I have a perfect, happy family that lights my way home. For the rest of my life, I will walk hand in hand with my family toward a better future. My wife, Victoria Ashton, would often complain to me about her recently graduated male assistant. He's supposedly an Ivy League grad, but he can't even make a decent PowerPoint. And his fashion sense is atrocious plaid shirt with a windbreaker. It's terrible for the company image. But when the assistant's fiancé publicly called her a homewrecker and slapped her, this spoiled, headstrong heiress actually chose to forgive her, just because of something the assistant said. I was just heading into the conference room to start a meeting. Victoria's assistant, Sarah Jenkins, called me. Mr. Clark, Jr. CEO Ashton has been hit. Please come quickly, Victoria. Hit. No time to think. Didn't even wait for the driver. I immediately ran to the garage, got in my car, and raced towards Victoria's company. Luckily, her office wasn't far. I floored the Rolls-Royce and got there in just a few minutes. While waiting for the elevator, I called the police. When I reached Victoria's office, the scene was chaotic. One side of Victoria's face was red and slightly swollen, clearly from being hit. She was furiously shouting insults. Across from her, held back by two assistants, was a tearful and agitated young woman, Chloe Miller, who wasn't backing down, trading insults with Victoria. You are a homewrecker using your money to interfere in other people's relationships. Have you no shame? And you call yourself a socialite? Don't you know we're engaged and you still mess with us? Victoria surged forward, raising her hand to strike. I rushed forward, calling her name. Victoria, it was as if she didn't hear me. She struggled against the assistants. Me, a homewrecker? Take a good look at yourself. Look at those cheap clothes you're wearing. Are you even worthy of being my rival? The assistants looked at me pleadingly. I stepped forward and pulled her arm. Vicky, calm down. But Victoria shook off my hand. Get lost, all of you. Don't anyone try to stop me. My hand was left awkwardly hanging in the air. How dare you come here and cause a scene? If I don't beat you senseless today, my name isn't Ashton. Seeing Victoria becoming increasingly enraged, I had to step in again. Just then, a tall young man rushed over Ethan Vance. He grabbed Victoria, holding her back. Victoria, stop this, please, I'm begging you, okay? Surprisingly, it worked. Victoria actually stopped struggling. She pointed furiously at the man, begging me. Isn't this all because of you? Her tone was harsh. But beneath the resentment and impatience, I detected a faint trace of indulgence. Few people could make Victoria stand down after such humiliation. I immediately asked Sarah Jenkins beside me, "Who is that?" "Oh, he's also Junior CEO Ashton's assistant. His name is Ethan Vance." So it was him. I remembered this Ethan Vance. Victoria used to complain about him occasionally. Supposedly an Ivy League grad, but he can't even make a decent PowerPoint. And his fashion sense is atrocious: plaid shirt with a windbreaker, suits with sneakers. Wearing stuff like that to work every day, it's terrible for the company image, I'd told her back then, just to fire any unsuitable employee. Victoria was starting her own brand. A poorly presented assistant was indeed a problem. Based on her description, someone clumsy and badly dressed wouldn't last long. Later, she stopped mentioning Ethan, and I hadn't asked. I never expected the employee she'd despised so much to still be here, looking quite presentable. And he wasn't wearing plaid and a windbreaker. Instead, he wore a Keaton suit. The suit, clearly costing thousands of dollars, made him look quite sharp and stylish. I hadn't realized Ethan Vance was actually quite handsome. I noticed he didn't call Victoria Junior CEO Ashton like the others, but used her first name directly. Victoria finally noticed me. A flicker of panic crossed her face. "Sincere, what are you doing here? I heard you were attacked." "Of course, I had to come see. I'm fine, really, I can handle this." Just then, 2 police officers walked in. Victoria immediately became defensive again, shouting, "Who called the police? Who took it upon themselves to call them without my permission?" The assistants flinched like quail. I answered calmly, "I did." She scoffed. "Victoria Ashton doesn't need the police to fight her battles. How embarrassing this woman came here and assaulted you. We can request she be detained, possibly even face criminal charges. I think that would teach her a better lesson than just shouting matches." Hearing this, Victoria couldn't really object. At my insistence, we all went to the police station. When the police confirmed that refusing mediation could lead to detention, Victoria's eyes lit up, and she immediately chose not to mediate. Now Chloe Miller started to panic. She broke down crying. "She buys my fiancé suits worth thousands. They've hugged. Do you think they're innocent?" I just wanted to talk to her calmly, but she immediately called me poor and ugly. "How can someone bully people like that? That's no excuse for assault," one of the officers pointed out. I looked directly into Victoria's eyes. When had they hugged? Victoria stiffened slightly, lowering her gaze and avoiding mine. Ethan Vance walked over to Victoria, bending slightly, his eyes red-rimmed as he pleaded, "Could you choose to forgive her? Please don't let her be detained. It's all because of me, my fault. Hit me, yell at me, whatever you want. Just don't press charges against her, okay?" Victoria glanced at me, then at Ethan, her eyes flickering with indecision. I stood up to leave. Victoria quickly stood up, grabbed my hand. "Honey, buying him clothes meant nothing. I just wanted my employee to look presentable. It's important for the brand. I was just thinking of the company. And don't listen to her nonsense about hugging. It was just a game during a team-building event," she explained hurriedly. Ethan followed, constantly calling Victoria's name, "Victoria, Victoria. Can you forgive her?" "Is that so?" I asked softly. Was their relationship really that simple? Before Victoria could reply, Ethan tugged at her sleeve again. "Victoria, have some sense. My husband is here. Do I have time for you?" Victoria snapped, turning on Ethan. "Why beg me? Should I just let myself be slapped for nothing? Am I supposed to take it? I'm talking to my husband. Can you stop following me around?" She yelled at Ethan, loud enough for everyone to stare. Ethan froze, his eyes slightly red. He turned his face away, head bowed, looking utterly dejected in profile. Unnoticed by others, Victoria's grip on my hand tightened. I watched them coldly, emotions churning inside me. Just then, my phone rang. An important client was about to arrive. It was a major deal. I couldn't afford to miss the reception. "Honey, you should go attend to your business," Victoria said immediately, sounding considerate, strangely a little cheerful. "It's fine. I'll handle this." Fine. She was the one who got hit. No matter how worried or upset I was for her, she just wanted to do things her way. Let her. As for Ethan Vance, I called a friend, Daniel Hayes. I asked him to find everything on Ethan, including that photo of the hug. By the time I finished work and got home, it was quite late. Surprisingly, Victoria was home. She'd had Mrs. Gable prepare a spread: bird's nest soup, wild-caught sea bass, truffle steamed eggs, seafood salad, and more laid out on the table. Victoria ran over to take my coat, acting very attentive. Having grown up together since childhood, I knew Victoria's tells. I just needed to wait for her to bring it up. Honey, after you left, I decided to reconcile. This wasn't unexpected. My intention hadn't necessarily been to have Chloe detained, but she needed to understand there were consequences for assault. I glanced at her. Well, it's bad for the brand to have a big scandal. So, I listened to the nice officers and chose to reconcile. Of course, I didn't let her off easy. That shrew slapped herself and knelt before me before I agreed. I was slightly taken aback. What? That's how you resolved it? The woman agreed to that? Of course. That shrew was also just some top student from a small town. If she'd really been detained, her life would be practically ruined. She was truly scared. I hadn't expected her to choose such a method. Making someone kneel to you? Aren't you afraid of it being filmed and hurting the company? That's too extreme, I said, displeased. Ultimately, it still comes down to that Ethan Vance. Victoria immediately cut me off. It has nothing to do with Ethan. He didn't even know that Shrew was coming to cause trouble. She glanced at me again. And of course, I didn't reconcile because of Ethan. It's mainly because I want to make the company successful. So Dad won't always think I'm useless, always comparing me to Felicity and Penelope, saying they're the competent ones, and I just got lucky marrying well. She picked up some conch with her chopsticks and put it on my plate. Honey, try this conch. It's delicious. Then she started talking about the other dishes on the table. It was obvious she was forcing a change of subject, but I suppressed my emotions. Since we married, Victoria had wanted to build her own career, to shed the good-for-nothing heiress label. I supported her. Though she could be imperious and willful, she had always been clingy and listened to me since childhood. When we got married, besides being called a merger of influential families, we were hailed as the golden couple. I had always been tolerant and patient with her. Victoria often said that with me around, she felt like she could always be a princess. Was it worth letting these minor issues affect our relationship? Later, while I was in the study, my friend Daniel sent over the information on Ethan Vance, along with the photo I'd requested. In the photo, Victoria had buried her face in Ethan's chest, her arms wrapped around his waist. The visible half of her face wore a sweet, shy expression. The background was an outdoor street corner, not a team-building game as she claimed. Anyone seeing it would assume they were a couple deeply in love. Daniel also sent a message, "Big C, keep an eye on him." A chill ran down my spine, as if I'd plunged into icy water. I had always been confident in Victoria's feelings for me. We grew up together. Our personalities complemented each other. She had pursued me after she came of age. I thought our bond was unbreakable. Just then, Victoria's phone, left outside, pinged. She had gone into the bathroom to shower. I couldn't resist picking it up. A message from someone saved as Sheehan. I told her we're calling off the engagement. No doubt it was from Ethan Vance. I couldn't tolerate this. When Victoria came out, I asked her, "That's Ethan Vance, right? Why is he telling you he called off his engagement?" Victoria took the phone, glanced at it. Her eyes were unreadable, but the corners of her mouth turned up slightly. She replied nonchalantly, "How should I know why he's telling me? Texting me this late at night. He must be crazy." Despite saying this, when the screen lit up again a few times later, Victoria couldn't help but take the phone into the bedroom. It seemed Victoria was happy about Ethan breaking off his engagement. That night, we slept with our backs to each other. I heard Victoria tossing and turning, the light from her phone screen flickering on and off. After that, a barrier seemed to form between Victoria and me. The intimacy we shared vanished noticeably. I decided to go to Victoria's company, for no other reason than to try and salvage our relationship. I immediately spotted Ethan Vance. He was sitting in a central chair, bossily assigning tasks to other assistants who stood around him respectfully. He looked nothing like the incompetent newcomer Victoria had described. Anyone would think he was the boss. "Mr. Clark?" Ethan saw me and quickly stood up. "Victoria is in a meeting. It should end soon." He hurried to offer me a seat and brought hot tea. But just as he placed it on the table, it spilled. Luckily, I reacted quickly and dodged most of it, but my pant leg still got wet. "Mr. Clark, I didn't mean to—" I waved him off. "I've seen your job description. Hosting clients is part of it. Is this how you handle it? Haven't you had any business etiquette training?" Also, Assistant Vance, I used his formal title. "May I ask your salary?" Around $2,100 a month." "Okay. And how does that salary cover the Brioni shirt you're wearing today, or the Keaton suit from the other day?" "Both authentic. As far as I know, Junior CEO Ashton doesn't provide a clothing allowance for assistants. And Assistant Vance, you're from a modest background, a top student from a small town, correct? Furthermore, why does every other employee call her Junior CEO Ashton, while you alone use her first name?" Ethan flushed. "It was Ms. Ashton who said I could just call her by her name. I just smiled without saying anything." Victoria walked over. Seeing Ethan standing awkwardly before me, her eyes held a questioning look. I pointed to the spilled tea on the table and my wet pant leg. "How clumsy can you be? You can't even pour tea properly, get out." Victoria scolded Ethan. Ethan quickly left, his face red. "Honey, why did you come here?" Victoria asked after closing the door, leaving just the two of us. "Let's talk about Ethan Vance." Hearing I'd come because of Ethan, Victoria crossed her arms, leaning back against a chair. Her gaze seemed hostile. "I remember you used to say Ethan was mediocre, that you were planning to have HR let him go. How is it that now you're buying him suits worth thousands, while other employees don't get this treatment? Can we discuss the reason?" Victoria stared blankly for a moment, before speaking slowly. "Since Ethan got into a top university, he clearly has ability. He just lacked opportunity. Do you have any idea how much hardship he endured coming from a small-town background? I was initially going to fire him, but he came to me, promised to work his hardest if I just gave him a chance. At networking events, he even jumped in front of me to drink on my behalf, ending up in the hospital once. You rarely find employees like that. He made me feel that relationships shouldn't just be about calculating gains and losses. Yes, I bought him those clothes. Clothes make the man, and I felt it was necessary for the brand and the company image. And I feel somewhat responsible for his broken engagement." I understood. Simple. Ethan, playing the role of the naive recent graduate, using timely displays of vulnerability and dedication, had completely won Victoria's admiration. When she talked about relationships being purely transactional, was she implying that's how she saw ours too? He's interested in you, isn't he? I assume you're not blind to it. You're a married woman, Victoria. Whatever his reasons for breaking the engagement, you can't claim it was because of you. If I had a female assistant receiving the same treatment Ethan gets, how would you feel, Vicky? I said it bluntly. We looked straight at each other. We'd never been so confrontational. I didn't back down. There's no place for someone like him in our relationship. That's my position. A long silence passed. I'll be mindful of boundaries, she finally said. There's really nothing going on between us. Truly. Victoria said this, but lacked conviction. I shook my head firmly. Ethan Vance has to go. No, she shouted. My heart sank. It felt like something important was lost. Disappointed, I could only say, you weren't like this before. Victoria turned her face away. After a long pause, she murmured, I understand. Ethan Vance resigned from Victoria's company. I offered to arrange a position for him at a reputable company, but Victoria flatly refused. I learned she had found another place for him herself. More importantly, a huge rift seemed to have opened between Victoria and me. Despite my efforts to show care, we couldn't return to how things were. This left a bitter taste. Had our years together cracked so easily? At dinner, Victoria, who used to chatter non-stop, just ate while fiddling with her phone. Suddenly, she slammed her phone face down on the table. Why are women so shameless these days? Throwing themselves at any handsome guy they see. I looked up at her. I knew she was talking about Ethan, as if by silent agreement we hadn't mentioned him recently. But I was fully aware of Ethan's current situation, thanks to Daniel Hayes. He had caused so much trouble around Victoria in such a short time, I couldn't afford to be careless again. Victoria had placed him in Daniel's company. Daniel had even called me, asking who this Ethan Vance was that Victoria valued so highly. Later, he reported that several women at the company had shown interest in Ethan, keeping me updated on every detail. As we were getting ready for bed, Victoria suddenly received a call. Seeing the caller ID, she turned and took the phone out onto the balcony. But I could still hear her anxious voice. "Where are you? Tell me." Quickly, then she grabbed her coat and rushed out. "I have something to take care of. Don't wait up, Victoria. It's so late." I checked my watch. It was already past 11 p.m. Unable to shake my unease, I followed her. Eventually, I found Ethan Vance on a roadside. He looked like he'd had a lot to drink, his expression pained, hair falling over his brow, appearing helpless and lonely. Victoria ran towards him. As soon as Ethan saw her, he pulled her into his arms, burying his head in her neck, mumbling, "I shouldn't have called you, I'm sorry. But they kept forcing me to drink. They're all powerful women, bosses. I couldn't afford to offend any of them." Victoria's face was filled with pity as she struggled to support him. How could I endure this? I got out of the car and walked towards them. "Victoria, let go of him." They both saw me. Victoria's eyes showed guilt and panic, but also, undeniably, impatience. "Is he drunk?" Ethan quickly pushed Victoria away. "Mr. Clark, I'm sorry, I just didn't know what to do. I only want to work hard, but they treated me like that. It's all my fault. Miss Ashton, you should go back." He pushed Victoria towards me, but Victoria grabbed his hand back. "You don't need to apologize to him." Then she turned to me, furious. "This is your doing, isn't it? I told you there was nothing between Ethan and me. I made him leave. Why did you arrange for those people to harass him? He just wants a job." I froze. What did I do? "You know perfectly well what you did. Don't think I don't know. Your friends all listen to you, don't they? So you instructed them to mess with Ethan. He was harassed by women. His first day there, and now he's being dragged out to entertain female bosses." My own wife's accusation sent a chill through me. She knew my character. Why would I stoop to this? Why was there not even this basic trust? Ethan's job was assistant. Hadn't he accompanied Victoria to similar events before? He used to eagerly drink for her, but now it was framed as being victimized. "Victoria, do you realize what you're saying? I honestly haven't done anything." I tried to explain, but Victoria just sneered. She helped Ethan into her red Ferrari, speaking gently to him. "It's okay. I'll take you home." Her attitude towards me was like I was a stranger. "Victoria." I tried to stop her, but she didn't even glance at me, speeding away in the Ferrari. From the passenger seat, Ethan Vance rolled down the window and gave me a glaring, triumphant smile. Victoria didn't come home that night. She only returned late the next night. I had been waiting for her in the living room. She seemed surprised, but couldn't avoid me. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" she asked. "I heard you went to Daniel's company and resigned on Ethan's behalf." She paused, then gave a sarcastic smile. "Of course. All those friends of yours report straight to you." "That's right, I did." Ethan couldn't continue being tormented there. Ignoring her sarcasm, I continued. "And you had someone register a new company, with Ethan in charge, specifically to work for you, is that correct?" Victoria threw her coat on the floor, growing more agitated. "Who keeps telling you everything? Who's the real boss here?" I replied coldly. "Have you forgotten? I own half the shares in your company." That stopped her outburst cold. Victoria wanted to do brand management. but her reputation and ability weren't enough to get clients externally. She relied on work partitioned out by the Ashton and Clark families. The Ashtons were willing to let her play around with this segment specifically because my half-ownership meant I was backing it. Can you explain this? What exactly are you doing? Are you keeping him? Don't put it so crudely, I just feel sorry for him. He studied hard for 10 years to get into a top university, and now his abilities are questioned just because he's good-looking. What's wrong with wanting to work hard and establish himself in this city? I countered. There are countless hard-working students from poor backgrounds. Why haven't I seen you pitying them? When have I seen you do any actual charity work? If Ethan Vance didn't have that handsome face, would you be showing him such favor, defending him like this? These words left her standing there, speechless for a long time. Her tone softened, laced with grievance and resentment. I know you're successful. Everyone says I married a good man, but it puts a lot of pressure on me. If I don't go along with you, my family and friends say I'm being difficult, that it's my fault, that I need to reflect. It's exhausting, don't you know Ethan isn't like that? He's willing to always be there for me. He agrees with everything I want. I nodded. An heiress who buys him clothes worth thousands and sets up a company for him? Of course he'd agree with everything she wants. Pressure? She was an airhead and I was willing to support her. She wanted a career, I helped set it up. And now that was her pressure? In reality, it was just because I insisted Ethan resign. And now she'd brought him back right under my nose anyway. Then let's get a divorce. Cheating is cheating. Don't try to romanticize it. I lowered my gaze and said it without any emotion. Victoria's face turned pale instantly. Does it have to come to this? We just had an argument. You want a divorce over this? Our relationship spans over 10 years. How did it come to divorce? We've only been married a year just because of Ethan, because I didn't do what you wanted. So she did remember our decade-plus history. I stood up and showed her my phone. It was a photo Ethan had sent me last night. Credit to him for managing the long-armed selfie. It showed Victoria and Ethan lying in bed. Victoria seemed asleep, her head pillowed on Ethan's arm. Last night, I kept calling you until you turned off your phone. Honestly, I was just worried about you. But you were sleeping beside him. Have you forgotten our wedding vows? To never betray each other so. Let's get divorced. Victoria's lips trembled slightly. Impossible. I won't divorce you. Let me explain. Nothing actually happened last night, really. I just had a little too much to drink. I was exhausted, and I fell asleep at Ethan's place. It's you I love, sincere. When I told both sets of parents about the divorce, everyone objected. Shamefully, our wedding had been held up as a model romance. Suitable families, Victoria claiming a crush since middle school. Me liking her cute, lively personality, it was hailed as the marriage of the century. Mr. Reginald Ashton was furious. Victoria and the Clark family had several major joint projects, some just starting. So he directly intervened and drove Ethan Vance away. Victoria also pleaded desperately with me not to leave, even stopped going to her office, following me around constantly. Or she'd have Mrs. Gable cook elaborate meals of my favorite dishes and bring them to me personally. But the crack was there. There was no going back. I suggested a trial separation, but she rejected it, constantly declaring her feelings for me. But I noticed her staring blankly at her phone from time to time. Even though she claimed she'd cut off all contact with Ethan, I no longer believed her. There was no trust left between us. Ethan kept begging Victoria to meet him just once. Victoria told me she wouldn't see him again. One day, it started raining. Mrs. Gable came over. There's a man standing outside the villa. He won't answer when I ask him anything. Before I could react, Victoria rushed to the balcony. From behind her, I saw him, Ethan Vance, standing in the rain, already soaked through. And the rain was getting heavier. I was about to call security to remove him, but Victoria stopped me. Ignore him. He'll leave on his own eventually. She went back to the sofa, fiddling with her phone, clearly distracted. I just watched her without speaking. An hour passed. Victoria couldn't stand it anymore. She stood up. I'll go yell at him to leave. She hurried out frantically, not even grabbing an umbrella. I stood on the balcony and watched Victoria run to him. They grabbed each other, arguing loudly. "Victoria, I really love you. I'm younger than you, I don't have money, but is it wrong for me to love someone? I won't leave. I'll go crazy if I don't see you. Do you know how much I miss you? If you're ignoring me, why did you come out here?" They struggled like wild animals, pulling back and forth, but finally they embraced and then kissed. A deep kiss in the rain. Truly a pair of star-crossed lovers. Standing on the balcony, I raised my phone and calmly recorded their tender moment. Then I instructed Mrs. Gable to pack all of Victoria's belongings and throw them out of the house. This villa was the marital home I'd specifically bought. There was no reason for Victoria to ever enter it again. That day, Victoria and Ethan left together. Afterwards, however, she called me frantically, still refusing the divorce. I had the divorce papers drawn up. My lawyer delivered them, stating a deadline. If Victoria didn't sign, I would file for divorce. In the agreement, I decisively reclaimed all my separate property and the vast majority of our marital assets. Victoria could only take the dowry items from the Ashton family. I knew it wouldn't go to court. That would cause a huge scandal, ruining the reputations of both the Ashton and Clark families. Unable to get into the house, Victoria started ambushing me at the office. "Honey," she grabbed me anxiously. "Please let me explain, okay?" At first, I really just wanted him to leave quickly. Didn't want him causing a scene at home. Later, I don't know what happened. I must have lost my mind. I admit it because Ethan is handsome and obedient. I was tempted. He seemed naive, which felt new, so I indulged him. And his sob story made me pity him. She held on to me, speaking quickly, afraid I wouldn't listen. She said she'd do anything, just not divorce. She even brought up her parents, saying the Ashtons could vouch for her. If I forgave her, she promised she would settle down and live a proper life with me. I cut off her rambling. I said Victoria Ashton is not allowed here. Who let her in? Do you want to lose your job? I glared at my secretary, who immediately mumbled apologies. Victoria wouldn't change. She kept wavering, swayed by Ethan's heartfelt performances. She had chances to save our marriage. Like when I made Ethan resign, like when her father drove Ethan away. But Victoria couldn't let go. She stayed in contact with him. She was unfaithful to me, unfaithful to our marriage. The lawyer informed you of the final deadline for signing. If you don't, I will file suit. I mean what I say. You have 5 minutes to leave now, otherwise I'll call security. Before the deadline I set, my lawyer informed me Victoria had agreed to sign. Victoria arrived wrapped in a large coat, her eyes filled with exhaustion and confusion. "Sincere, let's get divorced." I nodded, ready to sign. "Sincere," she started, then hesitated. "I don't want to divorce, but—" I looked at her calmly, my voice devoid of emotion. "I know why. You're pregnant. With Ethan's child." Her mouth fell open. She was speechless for a long time. Wisely, she didn't ask how I knew. Finally, she picked up the pen and signed the divorce agreement. I never thought this would be how we ended. Her eyes reddened. The sadness in that moment seemed genuine. "You kept calling Ethan's ex-fiancée a shrew. Did you ever really understand their past?" I couldn't resist reminding her. Victoria hadn't immediately chosen abortion. I guessed Ethan, upon learning, treated it like a treasure, persuading her in every way to keep the baby. She paused. "I know. They'd been together since high school, but Ethan said he only felt gratitude towards her, not love. He said she forced him into the engagement. He feels differently about me than he does about her." Hearing her certainty, I had nothing more to say. Whatever. I'd done all I could. Let it end here. But Victoria called out as I turned to leave, "Sincere, I regret it. I still love you." She started crying behind me. I didn't look back. Love, coming from her lips now, felt cheap. The Ashton family naturally wouldn't approve of Victoria marrying the penniless Ethan Vance, but that's how relationships sometimes are. The more others object, the more determined the couple becomes. Reginald Ashton even threatened to send Victoria abroad and roared about making Ethan Vance disappear. Victoria resisted fiercely, running off with Ethan to get a marriage certificate. For this, her father cut off her financial support. Amidst all the turmoil, I tried to keep a low profile, avoiding any public comments to prevent affecting the Clark family stock price. Sometime later, Victoria suddenly came looking for me. Even with makeup, her exhaustion and the dark circles under her eyes were visible. She stood before me timidly, sincere, completely different from the bright, flamboyant woman she used to be. I said coldly, "Don't call me that." Tears fell from her eyes. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Ethan Vance tricked me. He was just after my money. He's still entangled with his ex-fiancée Chloe Miller. They never really broke up. And she's pregnant too. I said nothing. This part was unexpected, yet also predictable. Victoria had been sure the Ashtons wouldn't abandon her, so she impulsively married him, never expecting the sham relationship to unravel so quickly. Ethan and Chloe Miller had a long history. Their connection ran deep. It wasn't just about her supporting him through school. Otherwise, Ethan wouldn't have begged Victoria to reconcile back then. Besides, I knew Ethan had never really split from Chloe. I had even tried to warn Victoria about it. Victoria wept uncontrollably. "He just wanted my money. He even wanted me to launch his entertainment career. I've scheduled the abortion." I want a divorce, but he refuses unless I pay him a huge sum of money. Mom and Dad aren't talking to me, and they've cut off my allowance. You're the only one I can turn to. When we were children, Victoria would run to me whenever she had a problem. People used to tease her, calling her my little shadow, my little wife. Later, we really did get married. But that wasn't the end of the story. I was possessed. I truly shouldn't have separated from you. Can we start over? I'm sorry, sincere. I'm so sorry. Can I pursue you again? She grabbed my hand tightly. I pulled it away. Impossible. I turned and walked away. She stumbled after me. How can you be so cruel? I've loved you for over 10 years. How can you be so heartless, not even give me a chance? I'm determined to win you back. Will you give me that chance? I stopped and questioned her sharply. Victoria, have you no self-respect left? You were the one who betrayed the relationship. You were the one who cheated. You want to start over? Dream on, she sobbed. But I heard, you're collaborating even more with my family now. Isn't that because you still? I laughed. I'm a businessman. The Ashtons feel indebted to me and are willing to offer favorable terms. Why wouldn't I accept? As for you, you're merely an outcast from the Ashton family now. Originally, with my backing, Victoria might have secured some shares and assets from the Ashtons. Now, she was completely excluded from the line of inheritance. The Ashton family was large, with many half-siblings. Whether in career or marriage, Victoria's future looked bleak. I remained busy with work, letting matters of the heart take their own course. Victoria eventually got divorced with her father's help. After 2 failed marriages, emerging battered and bruised emotionally, the once flamboyant and willful girl became silent and withdrawn, and was finally sent abroad by the Ashton family. As for Ethan Vance, I heard he latched onto another wealthy woman, a female tycoon, and actually entered the entertainment industry. But is the world of fame and fortune so easy to navigate? Before he could even make a name for himself, he was blacklisted. Whether he offended the tycoon or the Ashtons intervened, nobody knows. All that uproar has nothing to do with me anymore.